Hello everybody, this is me, JD, and I guess you should know a little bit about me. I'm going to tell you briefly a little bit about me. I got 6 minutes to put my whole life in, and I've been dug on thinking about that, and there's no way I can do it, but I'll tell you a little bit about me. My actual name is James Dennis Creveau. That's where the JD comes from. My name, JD, is actually a pickup line. Yeah, it's a real pickup line. When my first wife left me and I started dating again, I realized in the dating field you have to impress people. So I started going by JD. You'd ask a girl her name, she'd tell you her name, and then in turn she asked your name, and I'd say JD. And then most of the time, because when I was meeting these young ladies, we were at clubs, they would say, "Oh, what's that for, Jack Daniel?" And I'd say, "No, I don't drink besides that, but it's for James Dennis." So really, a little comedy there, a little laughter, and I also told them I don't drink. Mind you, I'm not against drinking socially. Alcoholic and alcoholism, that's another story. I was born June 4th, 1948, in a small town called Brooklyn, New York. Actually, the city of Brooklyn, New York. I believe, I won't swear to this, according to my sister Pinky, the hospital I was born in was Williamsburg. Which is ironic because here I am living in Norfolk, and just up the road, Interstate 64, is Williamsburg, the city. Okay? So yes, I was born in the United States, June 4th, 1948, in Brooklyn, New York. Of the major candidates, Obama, McCain, and I am really the only one born. Okay? My mother was born in Brooklyn. She went to school up to 3rd grade. At 3rd grade, her parents took her out of school, and she went to work in shoe factories, putting shoes in boxes. My father was Canadian, and he came down here to the United States, I personally believe, to get away from the war, and he ended up joining the Navy. But really, when I checked, he was younger when his father came to the United States. Okay. If you want to check the records, you'll see that my father's actual name is Crivea. He added the U onto it. His real name is Cecile Ellsworth Creveau. Crivea. My grandfather was James Laurel Creveau. You could go on the record things, you'll see they came from Canada. On my mother's side, my grandfather's name was Anthony Fester, Festa, and my grandmother's name was Ava. I can't tell you what her last name was, and this is where there's a little contradiction between things. My mother tells me one thing and my sister tells me another. My mother tells me that back around when my grandmother was like 16 years old, my grandfather's family went to Germany and bought her. Paid cash for her and brought her over here, and she ended up working for the family and properties that they own. I remember my grandmother always used to be scrubbing floors inside apartment buildings and stuff in New York City when we go visit them. Okay. So also, I spent about 5-6 years with my mother. At that point, the state of Connecticut decided they weren't good parents. My father left me before then. My mother was pregnant with the 5th child, and we had my 4 brothers and sisters, and he left us. The last time I saw him was as he was going out the door. He gave me $2, and as soon as he left, my mother took that $2 from me. For the longest time, until I got real old and understood what really happened, I used to hold that against my mother. My $2 that my father gave me, she took. My mother remarried another sailor, and they went to Waukegan, Illinois to live. They got married and went there. Something happened. Supposedly, the lady who was watching us, and I have no memory of hardly any of this. And we ended up in Waukegan. And I remember sitting on the sidewalk in my tour clothes in the wintertime, watching TV. They had color TV outside the store. Knock on the window, and the guy would turn in, and we'd watch Superman. Me and my brothers and sisters. I know what it's like to go through garbage cans looking for food, because that's what we did. we had to go through garbage cans. My mother didn't have. My second father, he was a true alcoholic, and my mother was what they call periodic alcohol. So there was very little. We lived in a one-bedroom apartment atop of a bar in Waukegan, Illinois. And when he got through there, we went to Quonset Point, Rhode Island. I know that because during my Navy time, I got through Quonset Point and I recognized the area. I went to a school called Oliphant School. I think that's where I began school a second time. I began school actually 3 times. Once in Brooklyn, New York, before my mother remarried. And then I began school again in Oliphant School in Quonset Point, Newport, Rhode Island. And then second time when I was a foster child because all my records were lost. And we moved to Connecticut, and from there we went, and the state of Connecticut decided my parents weren't good parents, namely because we were always being beaten, and we were always crying and yelling, and my mother and father always fighting. Totally dysfunctional. So they took us away. How old was I? 7, 8 years old? I don't know. I really don't know. That's all a blur from the up until the state took me away. Yes, I was a foster child in the state of Connecticut. I went through several foster homes. I'll never forget the day they took us away. 2 ladies in a black car took all us kids, put us in the back seat. I mean, we were across. And we rode from house to house, and they'd take 1 or 2 of us out. We'd hug each other, and for the longest time, that was the last time we saw each other. And we went to different foster homes. I remember the first foster home I went to when we pulled up to that yard. It was a granite stone house, not completely done yet. Light was on, long driveway we drove up. A nice lady, that would be a perfect grandmother, was there. I was very fortunate because she was very nice. But they were real farmers and we were city kids. And I mean real farmers. They went to town once a month to get what they needed. Otherwise they grew everything. They had cows, they had pastures, they had vegetables, everything. They grew everything. And once a month they went to town, and where they went was Sears and Roebuck's. Nobody else. If it wasn't at Sears, they didn't need it. And they only got at Sears what they couldn't make. But basically that's the real synopsis of the early part of my life. I'm running out of time, so I'll have to do a second one. But basically we're up to my first foster family that I was at. I'll give you more information on the next video. Okay? Thank you. This is JD.